so easy to remember the exact moment. Their wedding day, William laughing at something someone had said as she looked up at him, smiling shyly. There was so much happiness evident there, so much joy, that she had almost thought her heart would break with it the day of her wedding. She wore a beige lace and satin dress, with a very stylish beige lace hat with a small veil, and she had carried an armload of small tea-coloured orchids. They had been married at her parents' home at a small ceremony, with her parents' favourite friends beside them. Almost 100 friends had come to join them for a quiet but very elegant reception. There had been no bridesmaids this time, no ushers, no enormous wedding party, no youthful excess, only her sister Jane to attend her, in a beautifully draped blue satin dress with a stunning hat that had been made for her by Lily Dutchess. Their mother had worn a short dress in emerald green. Sarah smiled at the memory. Her mother's dress had been almost exactly the colour of her own 2 extraordinary emeralds. How pleased with her life her mother would have been, if only she had lived to see it. There were other photographs there as well, of the children when they were small. A wonderful one of Julian with his first dog, and Philip looking terribly grown up, though he was only 8 or 9, when he was first at Eton, and Isabel somewhere in the south of France in her teens, and each of them in Sarah's arms when they were first born. William had always taken those photographs himself, trying to pretend not to have tears in his eyes as he looked at Sarah with each new tiny baby. And Elizabeth, looking so small, standing beside Philip in a photograph that was so yellow one could hardly see now. But as always, tears filled Sarah's eyes as she looked at it and remembered. Her life had been good and full so far, but it hadn't always been easy. She stood looking at the photographs for a long time, touching the moments, thinking of each of them, gently brushing up against the memories, while trying not to bump into those that were too painful. She sighed as she walked away again, and went back to stand at the long French windows. She was graceful and tall, her back very straight, her head held with the pride and elegance of a dancer. Her hair was snowy white, though it had once shone deep red. Her huge green eyes were the same deep dark colour as her emeralds. Of her children, only Isabel had those eyes, and even hers went as dark as Sarah's, but none of them had her strength and style. It was a kind of power one sensed about her as she walked into a room, and like her or not, one couldn't help but respect her. William had been like that too, although more effusive, more obvious in his amusement about life and his good nature. Sarah had always been quieter, except when she was with William. He brought out the best in her. He had given her everything, she frequently said, everything she had ever cared about, or loved, or truly needed. She smiled as she looked out over the green lawns, remembering how it had all begun. It seemed like only hours ago, days since it had all started. It was impossible to believe that tomorrow was going to be her 75th birthday. Her children and her grandchildren were coming to celebrate it with her, and the day after that, hundreds of illustrious and important people. The party still seemed foolish to her, but the children had absolutely insisted. Julian had organised everything, and even Philip had called her from London 6 times to make sure that everything was going smoothly. And Xavier had sworn that no matter where he was, Botswana or Brazil or God only knew where else, he would fly in to be there. Now she waited for them, standing at the window, almost breathlessly, feeling a little flutter of excitement. She was wearing an old but beautifully cut, simple black Chanel dress with the enormous, perfectly matched pearls that she almost always wore, which caused people who knew to catch their breath the first time they saw them. They had been hers since the war, and had they sold in today's world, they would have surely brought over $2 million. But Sarah never thought of that. She simply wore them because she loved them, because they were hers, and because William had insisted that she keep them. The Duchess of Whitfield should have pearls like that, my love. He had teased her when she first tried them on, over an old sweater of his she had borrowed to work in the lower garden. "Damn shame my mother's were so insignificant compared to these," he had commented, and she'd laughed, and he had held her close to him as he kissed her. Sarah Whitfield had beautiful things. She had had a wonderful life, and she was a truly extraordinary person.